Hi there, and welcome to the A.D.K channel. And with me today, I have Craig and Chris from the band Junction 28. Hi, guys. Welcome to the channel. Hope you are doing well.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us here.
Great to have you on board. We're going to go a little bit of detail about the band. I've read your press release, so I've got a little bit more information about yourselves, but obviously rather than just reading a press release, we want to get it from the horse's mouth, as they say. So we're going to get you to talk about band origins, how the band came together, but also about the band name. But I'm going to kind of guess Junction 28, M25 Junction by any chance? Kind of just going to throw it out there.
Yeah, that's the turning we all take to go to band practice.
So I'm going to get you to elaborate a little bit more on it, because one of the things that we find very interesting on the channel is talking to people about their band names and where it came from. And to be honest, I'm yet to find anyone, even like the big bands that we came out with, like we did Diso Fluid and Dog Eat Dog, Pitch Shifter. None of them have actually come up with a great origin story for their band name. It was always just a random name that was picked. So we'll find out if yours is the same. But I'm going to throw it over to you guys. If you just want to take us through how did Junction 28 get together, and obviously origins of the band name, please.
Chris, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so started, I think it was roughly about 4-ish years ago. Started with Kieran, our bassist. He was the guy that kind of put everyone together. There's been a few different lineups since that point. So it's taken us a few years to get to where we are now. But the current lineup as it is, we've been together about a year and a half, I'd say.
Yeah.
And that sort of came about with I joined maybe about a year before that, and then Gary who is our latest member. He was the one who joined about a year and a half ago.
Right.
So yeah, and that's the sort of the complete the band as it is now.
Okay. And I mean, was a lot of the sort of band members that have come into the band, have they been through like the usual musician friend avenue and find me a band member type websites, or is it just kind of people you've known from other bands or associates you've kind of met on the road from other gigs and stuff like that?
It's, we actually started off as a sort of classic hard rock band, and the guitarist that we had, he moved to Norfolk, and then we had a gig the night before he left, and Chris was actually at the gig, and Kieran said to him, "Oh, we need a guitarist. Do you want to join?" You know, and he's like, "Yeah, okay." And he came in as a guitarist.
Thing is, I knew Kieran. I'd known him like probably about a decade before that. We'd been to college together, so we had known each other, but we'd been out of contact for so long. And then I was at this gig, so everything kind of fell into place from that point.
And it was the same with me. Before I joined them, I was actually in another band, and they came to him and the singer they had came to our show. And the next day, Kieran messaged me and said, "Oh, we got rid of the singer. Do you want to come and jump on vocals for us?"
Right, okay.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." So they sent me 3 tracks over, and I wrote lyrics and recorded vocals for them within a week. And I hadn't done it in about 5 years. And they liked what I did, got me in for an audition, and signed me up. And then just before COVID happened, we decided we wanted to change the direction of our sound. So that's when we kind of ventured into the electronic side of it.
Right. So with going back to the question about the band name, so Junction 28, I assume based on the fact that you're Essex based, and I was like, well, Junction 28 is kind of the main turn off if you're going off. You could do one earlier and do the M11, and anyone that's not from our area has no idea what we're on about, but Junction 28 is the M25 turn off if you're going out into Essex, Chelmsford, that sort of area. But why pick that as a band name?
I actually didn't want it. And still to this day, I don't really like
Junction 28 was the best one.
I wanted to be called The Beautiful Damned because I thought we was going down a different route, kind of like Ghost, you know, was experimenting with that sort of style. But then they were like, no, we like Junction 28. And as it is, we put loads of names in a hat, and we do like a poll on who likes what name the best, and that was everyone's favourite. And that was basically the turning that we take off to go to band practice, and that's basically how it came about. it could have been the A13, you know.
The thing is actually before I realised where you guys came from, I was like, Junction 28, yeah, good name, I like it. It's kind of, it makes you, the first thing you think of is like area, like whatever, like, was it area? I can't remember what the area is in America, in Nevada and the desert. And
Oh yeah.
Area 51 or whatever it is. But you can't, you start thinking of like, or Route 66, iconic location names. So I was like, Junction 28, yeah, cool name. And then I was just sort of went, you're Essex. Ah, right, okay, that makes complete sense why that name came out then.
Yeah. I mean, you could look at it and think, oh, these guys are kind of like hard rock sort of band. And to be fair, we were originally a hard rock band.
I mean, I'm just curious, before I move on to like talk about the music side of it, you talked about obviously people asking you to join bands or move from one band to another. The Hertfordshire scene is in what I would very much, or we refer to it affectionately as a very incestuous kind of scene where band members seem to jump from one band to the other or help each other out, or the amount of band members that we see in our kind of main area who are playing in more than one band is quite excessive. Is that something you also see within the Essex, especially bass players? Bass players and drummers seem to be in short supply, so they all seem to be doing at least duty in at least two bands or more.
I think I was the only one actually that was in another band playing bass. Chris does like his own stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about this, I think there's just a lack of drummers everywhere, to be honest.
Yeah.
So most drummers are playing in about 5 different bands. There's like 4 drummers in the whole of Essex, pretty much. But I think it's kind of a good thing in a way, because what we've been trying to sort of do recently and what we've seen with the scene down here in Essex is it's become a bit more, because of that kind of like community, it's been growing a lot closer. There's a lot of bands that are sort of growing sort of with each other and helping each other out, and that's been like a really nice thing to see. So it does have its like benefits with that.
It does. It's nice to see. I mean, we've seen it the same here in the Hertfordshire scene. There's a lot of close knits. There's a lot of sharing of gigs and people moving around, and it's actually kind of nice when you turn up at the venue and it's all bands you know, and you're like, hey, how you doing? It's all kind of like friends and family, which is quite nice. So yeah, good. Before I get to your latest EP, so talk to me a little bit about how the band went through lockdown. How did that impact? Because obviously 2018, the band came together. You're getting into your stride. You've written a load of songs. You're ready to go, and then 2020 hits, and you're all kind of told you can't see each other or do anything for the next foreseeable future, 6 months to a year. So how did that work as a band?
So when lockdown happened, we were sort of reassessing everything, because obviously we didn't know what was going to happen. As it sort of kind of got further and further into, I think it was maybe the first 3 months, me and Chris I was writing as we were doing it from home and then sending stuff back and forth to each other. And I was like, do you know what? Everybody is doing classic rock, hard rock. And I knew that Chris was doing his electronic stuff on his own. I was like, why don't we incorporate, try something a bit different? And then, so he was like, okay. And I remember saying to the guys, right, we're going to bring electronics into the band. And they were like, what? Just look at it like someone's playing a guitar. You know, you just play what you've got to play. It will fit together. And we did a session, didn't we? And it actually worked out. We managed to get together after writing 2 songs. It was kind of when COVID kind of sort of, I think it was about September time, sort of laxed off a bit. We could get back into it. So we were sort of getting in the studio, you know, masked up and everything. I mean, to do all our tests and everything before we go into the studio. You know, going in there with nosebleeds, and it just clicked. You know, everyone they'd listened to the track, and it was just like, look, you just play your parts, it will work, and it did, and it sort of stemmed from there. And the first EP was just really us discovering our sound, and then we wrote loads of different things, didn't we? You know, we were taking stuff from The Weeknd. You know, it was like, oh yeah, we like this sort of sound that he's got going on there. What if we like stick some metal guitars over it? You know, we were looking at what was popular in the scene, in sort of the pop charts, if you like. and thinking, oh yeah, I really like this 80s feel coming onto it. So we tried that, and then it was just like, okay, it's not quite us.
What else can we do? Is always the point. Yeah, things it still took us ages to like fully work out. Like that first EP that we did, that was like took us, what was it, about a year and a half, and then like through that whole process was just us working out how to do it, because I was like, I'd moved from guitars onto the synth, and I had no idea what I was doing for like the first bit of it. So I was just bringing in like a synthesizer and just doing bleeps and bloops on that, and not quite knowing how to make it work. And then but it all came together, I think.
So it kind of explains a little bit about what we kind of experienced when we listened to the Echoes EP, because it was really interesting going through the other two guys and myself. And the first thing we were like, I think my first comment on it, and you'll see it when you hear the review, was like, I got very confused on the first track when I listened to Identity, because I just couldn't kind of pin down a genre. I was like, what am I listening to? I'm not sure. Is it rock? Is it post-metalcore? And I'm like, and because it was interesting you mentioned, like in your press release, Bring Me the Horizon, but the one I picked out would have been, I said, for me, I was like, if anyone listens to I Prevail, they will like Junction. Because I was like, there is so many elements of the I Prevail kind of vibe in the band, from the clean vocals into the heavy vocals, and I'm assuming that's just one vocalist. You're not doubling up with second vocalist doing the heavy, it's clean, and then clean, you're doing it all yourself.
So we do actually live. We split the screams between us. Okay. Just it's easy for transitions. On the actual track, it's actually Chris doing the screams on it.
Oh yeah, I think we just covered it pretty much earlier, but yeah, we just basically evenly split it. Craig does all the clean bits, and you do all the harmonies as well. So some of the parts, we even had, I think, a 6-part harmony on this last EP at some point, and then I'll do all like the screaming stuff. It just makes like a nice clean break between those different sounds, so it just makes it a lot easier both to record and sort of when we do it live as well.
So it felt to me, listening to the Echoes EP, I was a fan of it as a whole. There were songs on there. For me, I mean, I could say like the weakest track for me was Identity going into it, which was weird because it's your track opener. I felt the other songs were stronger. But then the other guys, I think Andy's his favorite track was Identity, or one of his favorite tracks was Identity. So it's interesting because of our backgrounds of why we like different things. So I was more of a fan of the clean vocals than the screams. He was like, I really like the screams. I'm not so big a fan of the cleans. And so, and we do this whole thing, and you can see it in the review tomorrow, where we do a grading of either it's a bin it, a trade it, a stream it, or a buy it, of what we decide. And you can find out what your EP got from us on that one. We do it individually and we do it as a channel, but it kind of makes us think about what we really liked about the album. But the one track on the album, or the EP, that we all really, really enjoyed was Dark Thoughts. All three of us said that was the standout track for us on the EP. And the question that came from the other two is, in this EP, you've got a couple of quite poppy commercial driven tracks, and then you've got Dark Thoughts, which is a much more darker, heavier track. What's the plan for the band going forward? Is it still going to be a blend of continuing that? Do you have a direction? Because they are the two styles are not naturally sitting together on an album all the way through. They're fine from an EP point of view, but if you try to mix all those styles consistently, you might find that you're going to pull your audience direction apart, because who you aiming for? I felt from a commercial point of view, I'm like, that was aimed at radio play, in my opinion. I was like, that's a radio friendly song. You're going to get played. You can get played on Essex radio, no problem with that. You're not going to do that if you're Love Bites or one of these other metal bands that are going for the extreme end. They're not going to get it, whereas those sort of tracks would. Whereas Dark Thoughts, much heavier. The guys really liked it and wanted to know if they're going to get a whole album of that coming forward. I doubt it. I think you're still experimenting and finding what works and what you really enjoy playing. But you tell us.
We have thought about it, is the thing, but we're still at the point. I think we really want to see what the reaction for this EP is going to be, because it's one of the reasons we really like doing stuff that's quite various, and so like doing that kind of thing is so that we can sort of work out what's going to attract people, what people like and what we don't like. Because we like all those styles. That's why we put it together like that. But we really want to see what that reaction is. And then while we do have some ideas already of what the next project is going to be, I think we'll sort of start going, oh, people really like this song. People really like Dark Thoughts, so we'll do some heavier stuff. Or people really liked Long Way Down off that album, so off that EP. So and that's a bit of a poppier, dancey one. So maybe we'll go in that direction instead. But I think still try and make it quite, maybe not as varied as this one, but still try and keep a lot of the sort of dynamics of it in there, just because we actually like writing in as like with these different styles.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate that from an EP concept, because it was nice to go through and not get 5 tracks that are all just doom, or 5 tracks of power metal, or so we all kind of said that there'd be like 1 or 2 tracks that we would happily just stream consistently, but there might be a song on it that we would be like, no, it's all right, I wouldn't bother listening to that one again. And really interestingly, we were talking about the song Grow, and it's one of those songs, because Grow was an interesting track.
Thank you.
Because initially we talked about it, and when it was only because I went back and I listened to the lyrics and we talked about the lyrics afterwards, but we all initially went, on first listen, it's a track that we disregarded, because unless you have the context of what the song's about, you can't relate to it. But it's one of the songs that once you then understand the lyrics and you can relate to it, it suddenly brings more meaning. And there's a lot of songs like that. So where did the idea to do that particular track come from?
So 3 of us became dads over the last year and a bit. And I had lost quite a few people to like cancer and stuff like that. So I wanted to write a song for my daughter, and you know, from the other guys' point of views of being a dad, is if they lost us, they've got something to remember us by.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it is a deep song. I get it. It's not kind of a commercial song, but I wanted to, as I said, I wanted to have something there in case something happened that she could listen to, or they could listen to.
Well, hopefully nothing does happen.
Fingers crossed.
So last couple of questions for me. So a lot of people this year, really has been this year more than ever, have started going down the route of avoiding doing albums, avoiding doing EPs, and doing single releases through the year. So they're doing instead of doing the EP, they'll go, we'll drop a single, then 2 months later we'll drop another single, and eventually when we get to 8 months down the line, we'll drop the full EP with the final track on. What was your reasoning for not going down that route?
I think it's really just a case of we just want people to hear our sounds, because where it's kind of constantly changing, evolving, and we wanted to, for venues, you know, festivals, to hear what we can actually do. This EP, I think, is a bit more heavier than the last EP. It's got a bit more hard hitting, and you know, when we play live, we do leave the ballads at home, full throttle performance, and in between that, Chris puts on some kind of like dancey kind of groove stuff, and we see people from, you know, heavy rockers to all in pink girls, not girls but ladies, you know, at venues, and they all come up to us after, and you see them like all grooving, getting into the tracks, you know, like Don't Say, in the person can say do, 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 you know, everyone's just like, yeah, I'm feeling this, and then it kicks in, they're like, oh yeah, wow, didn't expect that. And you know, people coming up to us going, needed to get into that weekend vibe, you know, and that's what we wanted to sort of bring, make people sort of immersed in our sound and give them that vibe, like, yeah, we're ready to go, it's getting us pumped, let's have a good night, sort of thing, you know. And that's what we were aiming for. And with the EP coming out as a whole, they can hear the newer tracks, hear what we're doing, and say, right, this is what we're doing, you know.
No, I agree. I mean, I am a person that's completely against single tracks being released throughout the year. I understand why bands are doing it to try and keep interest, but I kind of feel that I'm a person that likes to immerse myself in an album, get the whole thing, listen to it, binge it. If someone gives me a single, I'll get bored quite quickly of a single song and move on to another band, and then I'll forget about that band and they're gone. So I think going for a full EP is the right way to do it. So last question then. So what's the plans for the band for this year then?
We really want to be playing festivals, and just playing as many gigs as we can.
Right.
That's our plan. I mean, we've got tomorrow night. We've got a gig, Chinnery's in Southend. Plus, we've got the EP coming out tomorrow. We've got the single dropping tomorrow as well for Identity. Next weekend, we've got a festival that we put on in Brentwood, Essex. That's the 25th. We've got 9 bands playing. All of them are contenders in Metal to the Masses, so it's quite an exciting little thing that we're putting on. What have we got? We've got Hertfordshire.
We've got a couple of gigs. Yeah, Hertfordshire. I think one in Cambridge.
Norwich.
Yeah, just sort of scattered about throughout the year pretty much until about July, I'd say. We've got quite a few. And apart from that, we've just sort of started writing possibly our next project. It's still very much just like a couple of really early demos so far. And like we said, still dependent upon a lot of other factors coming up to the release of this EP. But we do have that sort of going for it.
Which is quite funny because Echoes, which obviously the EP is named after and the track, is whenever we play that live, is actually a crowd favourite.
Right.
It's crazy. Like everyone sits down on the floor and then they get up and start jumping.
Yeah.
But then on Dark Thoughts, we have got recently for the last few gigs, we've actually had people doing a hug pit. So I've split the crowd and they all run in and just hug each other.
Sounds awesome. So whereabouts are you playing in Hertfordshire? Do you remember?
The Corn Exchange.
Yeah, Corn Exchange.
What, in Hertford Town?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be at that one. That's my local. So I'll definitely see you at that one. Are you gonna have any music videos off the Echoes EP?
Yeah. So Identity is coming out tomorrow. We've got a really interesting idea for Dark Thoughts.
Right. Okay.
And
potentially we're also doing Echoes, maybe in a couple of months. So I think they're the 3 we're going to be looking at doing videos. Identity is the only one we've got finished so far.
Right. Okay.
But yeah.
We'll look forward to checking it out. I'll see if we can fit that into the agenda for the guys to check out that actual video as well. But it's been great having you on the channel. I really do appreciate you taking some time this evening to talk about it. And obviously, I'll put some details in the description down below the video for your Facebook page, etc., and gigs coming up. And I will definitely, obviously, make sure I get down to your Hertfordshire gig and give you some support at the Corn Exchange. Is it with Juicebox? Is it Juicebox Live doing it? Or
yeah, it's Wednesday night.
Well, yeah, you have the dreaded Wednesday nights. Okay, I will definitely come down and support them for you. And I'll drag the A.D.K guys down for you as well.
Oh, that'd be wicked. We'll make sure it's hard hitting.
Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate that. So thank you very much for joining me on the channel. For those watching at home, please make sure you like, share, subscribe, check these guys out. And thank you very much for watching. Take care.